Hi, welcome back to FutureFast. And like always, we have a very interesting guest, Machayya. And before I introduce Machayya to you, those of you who are here for the first time, FutureFast is an effort to bring people who are doing things that are bound to have an impact on the future. And we hope it's going to be a positive impact. And the idea of bringing them to do this conversation is to understand how do they perceive the future, how are they preparing to handle it, and perhaps we could draw some pointers out of it, which we could potentially use it in our own business or work or life and such. And I hope the rest of you are enjoying this conversation that we are bringing to you and enjoying this ride. And like always, I hope you will also enjoy this conversation, which I'm looking forward to. And Machayya, I just want to give a one-line introduction. He's been a serial entrepreneur in publishing, and today he has a very exciting journey happening in the e-commerce and most importantly hyper-local e-commerce space, and we will understand from him in the course of our conversation. Machayya, once again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us, and welcome to FutureFast. And want to start with
Thank you.
yes, thank you, and want to start with asking you to share your journey. How did you get on to becoming an entrepreneur to start?
Actually, it's a very funny story. Many years back, when I was a youngster, under 25 years, one thing is I decided I would never take up a job till I was 25. That, as a rule, I had set it up, and I would only study whatever it was. And I had told the newspaper person, delivery guy, to put any newspaper, independent of whether the newspaper is available or not. I needed some newspaper. And just at the time when I was getting on to be 25, just about the time, and there was Reuters and all those things.
Which year was it? I'm just.
I think this is probably 81 or 82, around that time. Okay, and and so there was no Deccan Herald coming to my house today. So since the newspaper vendor, we were all playing football at one time together. So he knew that I needed a newspaper. He put the Hindu newspaper to my house that day. And in the Hindu newspaper, that day there was an advertisement saying wanted sales executives for a international publishing house. So my mother sees that and says, you're always reading books. So why don't you apply for this job? They said, Collins. So of course I applied for it, and out of some 2,000 and odd people, I was one of the persons who got selected for it. Why I'm telling you this story is because the then managing director of John Wiley India, it was called as Wiley East in those days. It's a subsidiary of John Wiley. I think at that time it was the world's second or third largest publishing house of all academic books, basically. Mr. Kundaji, he believed that if anybody does not read the Hindu newspaper, they don't deserve a job in Wiley. And for my luck, that day we had Hindu newspaper at home. And therefore I applied. And he thought, so the first step to getting a call for interview was over because it was advertised in Hindu. And I had read the Hindu. So that was my
I remember those days interview people would actually ask about what is there in the news today. I mean, it was
exactly. And Kundaji was very clear that if you didn't read the Hindu, you didn't deserve a job in John Wiley. He was very, very emphatic about it. No Indian Express, no Deccan Herald, nothing. It was a Hindu. Okay, so I got my job, and I worked in the company for 4.5 years. Why 4.5 years? Because again, in one of those meetings, Mr. Kundaji, Anand Kundaji, he's now I think 97 years. He was talking to somebody else while I was also there. And he was telling that anything that you have to do in life or anything that you can learn in life is below the age of 30. After 30, you only consolidate. So then and there, I decided that after 30, I'm not going to be working here. So, so when I was 29 and a half, okay, well before I was 30, I decided to quit. And all through Wiley world, it became a big news, and they said Machayya should not quit, because in 4.5 years, from a sales executive, I had become the editor of the company, probably the youngest editor I think John Wiley would have had anywhere in the world. I also represented, at the age of 28, I represented Afro-Asian Publishing Council, meaning council of all the publishers in Asia and Africa in SARC in Sri Lanka, as a guest of the Sri Lankan government. SARC was, those days SARC was a very big thing. Although it is there even today, but it's not such a big thing. And with all this background, by 29 years, I had decided to quit. I quit and started my first enterprise called Interline Publishing. So now again in Interline Publishing, when I started, there are a lot of publishers. This, for the viewers, it's a little bit of case study on how things can be marketed. So I was thinking, how do I market my books? So we had done books for engineering and a set of books for PUC students.
Was it easy to get started? As in, even somebody to give you to publish without you having published as
Yeah,
Interline versus going to Wiley or somebody
it
else?
was easy because I was a very, very big name in Wiley. Because in Wiley, I had interacted with more than 400 authors from the most premier institutions in the country, from University of Science and IITs and things like that. And my name was already there in the that if you need a good publisher, this Machayya is the guy to be contacted. So getting authors when I started on my own was a very easy job for me, because I already had a big name as a,
No, but it is one thing from an editing point of view, and another thing as a publisher, because publisher also meant distribution of books, right?
yes. But some of the authors believed me, because they believed me because even in Wiley, I had published books for Wiley Eastern India, which was also recommended as textbooks in Europe. So, and many of them knew me. And, a professor in IISc says, yes, Machayya can be trusted. It's all about trust, Somebody gives their entire life, because in a lifetime, you might write 1 or 2 books. So, and that one book they were willing to give you. That means you needed to build a huge lot of trust. So, this was there. So, when I published the PUC books, and I was wondering, how do I make my books uniquely placed? So, I took a huge risk. Okay. 2 things was, one is, because see, there was this in McGraw Hill those days, there used to be something called Sham series, which was a large size book. And so I also decided that I'll publish large size books. Okay. So all the books had multiple, beautiful covers, rest of the publishers. And I decided that my book will not have any, great cover. It'll be a single cover. So physics will be red in color, biology will be green in color, maths will be blue in color, and chemistry will be orange in color, and that's it. Okay. And they were large size books.
Any logic to it, or you just
No. Biology is green. That was the only logic. Other things had no logic.
okay?
Other things had no logic. But they were large. Large meaning they were double the size. So, okay, let me tell you. There is something called, in North they pronounce it as a demi, and in South they pronounce it as a demi. It's the size of a book, a paper, like you got A4.
Right.
So you got demi size and royal size and so many other things, So normal textbooks you find is printed in the demi book, demi size, basically because most of the printing presses come in the demi size thing. Okay. And most of them printed it at 1/8 demi. That means the paper is folded 8 times. That's why it's called 1/8 demi. I decided that I'll do the book on 1/4 demi. That is double the size. Okay. So what happened with double the size was that all the book traders were very unhappy with me. They were telling this book cannot be packed. We cannot parcel it. We have to send it here, there, and all those things. Your book is odd size. We don't want it. I kept quiet and kept promoting the books, giving complimentary copies, going to colleges and talking and all that. But what I knew is once a single student carries my book inside the class, the whole class will know that he's reading Interline book, because mine was the only large size book. And if a teaching faculty carried the book inside, even if you had put all sorts of cover to the book, because the book was large size book, they would know that the professor is referring to Interline book. And Interline became very famous. Everybody knew we were the biggest hit, and I think we were selling those days We had 9 titles for PUC and about 10,000 copies each print run. I'll print 10,000 copies, 90,000 copies, and sell 90,000 copies in 1 week.
Yeah, just one quick uh, reference to people who are not familiar with PUC. I mean, we have audience from different parts of the world as well. PUC is basically pre-university college PUC that is referred to. It's typically 11th and 12th, but coming from the state, it's more specific to the state board. In this context, it is Karnataka.
Yes.
Yes.
So when the PUC students passed out, they went to engineering. And they were already familiar with interline books. So they went to engineering, and most of them carried forward with their engineering books, which also was published by us. Then we, of course, shifted to commerce, we shifted to arts, and we are a very, very big name.
Okay? Shifted as in added, basically.
Yeah, added. Yes, we added. So we had PUC books, we had BSc books, we had BA books, we had BCom books, and we had engineering books. We also did some medical books, but it was not very successful because medical students.
But your academic qualification was what?
My academic, that's interesting. My academic, I did my MSc in zoology.
Zoology, and you chose not to touch the medical.
Human genetics.
Specialized and that would have been your core subject. Why would you leave that out?
Oh, well, I joined Wiley, and Wiley was doing a lot of engineering books and management books. So I became more familiar with engineering. And as an editor, I think, in fact, some of the professors started calling me as Dr. Machayya. They said, you know more engineering than some of the teachers here.
But you were a gold medalist, right?
No, I wasn't a medalist. I was more into athletics during my days, but I was fairly good in academics. Right. I didn't either try or didn't get the gold medal, but I was fairly good. I specialized in human genetics. For some time, I toyed with the idea of doing my PhD, but by which time I was already well entrenched in publishing, and I stayed there. Okay, so the publishing was going on very well. So when I started publishing, I think Karnataka had either 4 or 6 universities altogether. So it is very easy to publish books because there was a lot of audience for it. Okay, so by in another 10-15 years, what happened was the government policy all over the country was to have more autonomous colleges and smaller universities. So I'll give you a simple example. We had one book on Indian economics, and we had another series of books in zoology, about 8 volumes in zoology. 8 volumes are actually for semester 1, semester 2, semester 3, semester 4, like that. And then in the last 2 semesters, you had 2 books each. Now the colleges became autonomous. When the colleges became autonomous, they did not need the books. What they needed was, like our economics book, for example. How we found out is through our economics book. Economics book, which was selling about 1,500, 2,000 copies on print, suddenly reduced to selling about 100 copies. So when we went, we realized that Mount Carmel College was no more a part of the university. It was a autonomous institution with its own syllabus. Jyotineos is autonomous with his own syllabus. Christ was autonomous with his own syllabus. Now they all become universities. Joseph was autonomous with his own syllabus. National College is autonomous with his own syllabus. So the students did not need the whole book. They needed 1 chapter here, 2 chapters there. First chapter of our book was there for first semester. Second chapter was there for the 3rd semester. So they would photocopy these books. Now, in each college, there are these photocopying units. So what these guys did was, they would take the required chapters, photocopy it, bind it, and sell it.
Wow.
There was absolutely nothing we could do about it. Wow. Authors were telling that their material is being used in this college, but we are not selling the book, so we couldn't pay royalty on that. Okay. Then I still remember the Cambridge University Press and I think Oxford, OUP, Oxford University Press, actually went to court. And in Supreme Court, they lost the case.
Why would they lose?
Supreme Court said students can photocopy material for their personal use.
But it was somebody else was selling it by photocopying,
Yeah,
right?
the case actually went, OUP and CUP actually said, we are giving the books a special price. It's not the same price as sold in Europe and all those things. It's much less, but anyway, they lost the case.
Oh.
And after they lost the case, a lot of local publishers in Bangalore came to me and said, Machayya, what to do? Our books are being photocopied. I said, even my books are being photocopied. There is no other go. So I came up with the idea, can we publish books chapter wise? Instead of a book having 10 chapters, we'll make it small modules. So, but that was not working out. It was not commercially feasible. Because in any book, you'll find, okay, I'm going to use some. So basically, when you open a book, you will find a title page. And before the title page, you find a half title page where there's nothing but, just the title of the book is given and there's nothing else given. All this is because of the printing problems, because you cannot print 3 pages. You print 4 pages or 8 pages, 16 pages, things like that. But when you do the preliminary pages, you will find that there are pages which there is no need for the page to exist, but since it has to exist, you'll put some content in that. And at the end of the book, you'll find some 2-3 blank pages for the same reason, because the book can end in page number 233, while 233 cannot be printed. It must be 34, 35, 36 like that. Okay. So in printing, what happens is, so basically, I hope this is not censored, but these pages are called as bastard pages. It's actually a technical term.
No censor. Oh, right. Is that a technical term? Okay.
It's a technical term. This is what I learned in printing about 30 years back. This is a technical term. That means nobody wants this page, but it is there.
Right.
That's the definition. Nobody wants a half title page. So when you open a book, you find the first page with the title and nothing else. Then you find the full title with publisher, copyright, and all those things. Right. So this is the bastard page. So you see, when you do a single small module of 20 pages, you still have these useless pages there. So the cost goes up.
Right.
So it's of no use. So I said, now we have to build a technology wherein students can just download the chapters instead of buying the whole book.
Right.
So that was that part, that aspect of thinking, that a book need not have the complete chapters, all the chapters. A book can be just a single page, a single chapter, a single topic. That was a very revolutionary thought. That was the first time a book would come out which can be just as less as 5 pages. Okay. So the first time in history of publishing, which is about 500 years, from the time CUP published the Bible, I think about 500 years back, so the first book to be published. Okay. Right. From then onwards, the books have always been the complete books. So we are the first guys who said, no, the book will not be now 200, 300 pages. It will be 5 pages or 10 pages. It will be a single topic.
Well, you said it was not obviously economically viable, right? To make
it's not economically viable, but digitally we could do it.
Digital. But was it ready? The market was ready. Which year was it?
Market was not ready for it. And I became the evangelist for this. So I met all the publishers. I said, look.
Which year?
This was about 8 years back from now, 8-10 years back. Okay. So I met all the publishers. I said, look.
So around 2013, 2014?
Yeah, around that time. Okay. So I met all the publishers. I said, look, all of us are going to close down. There is no 2 ways about it. We are all closing down. Okay. And the only way is that we have to go digital. So let us all gang up together. Let's say we are going to go digital. All our books will be available in chapter-wise. So they said, what do you do with the inventory that you have got? I said, it's an evolutionary process. You just jump the inventory. That's all. So they said, will you do it? I said, of course I'm going to do it. But nobody agreed to do it. I did it. When I went digital, I think in my godown, I had inventory of about 1.5 crores. Okay, I'm talking about 10 years back. And we decided to sell this by weight. I spoke to the authors. I told them, look, I'm selling these books away. If you want it, you can take it. They said, no, what will we do with 200 copies, 500 copies and all that? So we decided to sell it by weight at, I think, 4 rupees a kg. Okay, and that
You could
and
have
that
as well given away free, right?
no,
The
nobody
4 rupees,
wanted.
you
Yeah,
could have
listen to this.
sold it to the students at least at that
No,
rate.
they didn't want it.
Wow.
Because nobody wants a book. The whole question of having a book was out. Nobody wanted it. They would only photocopy what is required. So when you say 4 rupees a kg, it was 4 rupees a kg after removing the cover, because the cover the fellows didn't want it. You know. So I think we got some 10,000 or
Uh, I lost your voice.
I probably
Yeah.
some arguments at home. They're telling, how do you get rid of so much stock and all those things? I said, either we move on. Or we perish. So we took the risk. We went completely digital. Then I was sitting in my office. One of my boys had gone to Atria Engineering College, and the professor of mathematics there sent word with him thanking me. He said, "Thank Machayya, because of him, all our students are able to read the material, and we are just taking the chapter which we want." So immediately I looked into my data sheet, and I found that Atria College had purchased only one book. And how is it that the professor is thanking me that all the students are using? Then what I found was, although we are charging just 50 paisa per page of download, one student had downloaded it and mailed it to everybody else. So, so again, the whole thing went for a toss. So we got to get back to the drawing board, and we created a DRM, Digital Rights Management, where when a student downloads it, he cannot print, mail, copy, do anything with it. He has to only read it in a regular platform. So we are the first people, I think, on the planet probably, who created a system where students could download and read the chapter. And if 10 students wanted it, 10 students had to download it. Simple. There's no other way. And NASCOM ranked us pretty high. They said it's a company that is capable of going global, etc. By 2019 December, we had a good valuation for the company, which was just about 3 years old. And 2020 February, COVID hit, and our valuation dipped by 90%, and all the publishers closed them. Simple and straight. Despite my telling them that you're going to get into trouble, everybody closed down. You go to Bangalore Revenue Road, which is a big place for book selling and all that, they're all down. They're all down. Many of them just closed shop, went home, and never opened again. We survived only because of the digital thing. So this was my journey on the publishing thing. So,
Well, see, I think it probably you got into publishing very organically. Apply for a job and you worked there for 4.5 years, and that learning motivated you to start your own, and you went about doing it. See, I want to ask you, since more if this segment is more about your personal journey, can you talk about people who have been influential in your life? Uh, Whoever, right? Family or friends or teachers or colleagues or your bosses. Who are your influences? Who shaped you, or who do you think has maximum influence on you for whatever you are today?
one of the persons I would definitely give a lot of credit is Mr. Anand Kundaji, my first managing director, who had a lot of faith in me. And then there was the CEO, Mr. Machue, Asanga Machue, of Wiley Eastern, and who would always say that we don't worry, I know what Machue can deliver. He can put his leg on the table and sit for 1 year. At the end of 1 year, I'm sure he'll give us 2 books which will sell 1 million copies. So these are the guys. And then a lot of professors in University of Science. Top ranking, I would put Professor Sienna Rao was quite a big inspiration for me. I mean, all these people, I've known them personally. Professor H.S.N. Mukunda was another person. Professor N. Mukunda was another person. Then Professor Rodam Narasimha. I think the people who actually influenced me a very lot is most of the times profs from University of Science, And then some of the professors whom I met who were teaching me in my PG days, when I met them, they said, yes, we always knew that you're not meant for this academics, although you're good in that, that we always knew you would do something else. And they were happy about it. But the guys who pushed me much was basically a whole lot of people from the University of Science. And with many of them, I'm still in touch with. And and there's another person, Professor H.S. Nagaraj, from Baswangudi, who started BASE, and Professor T.N. Chandrakanta. They also became authors at a later time. In fact, even now when Professor HSN meets me, I give him a chair and say, sir, whatever I am, thanks to your encouragement and direction those days. So people who inspired me, and my family members may be a little angry at it, but they're all from outside the family. 100%. 100%.
No, but tell
Yeah.
me, is it organic in publishing industry that a salesperson becomes editor? I mean, is that a
No,
natural thing?
a salesperson never becomes editor.
But
Never.
you joined as in sales.
I joined in sales, and I was stationed in University of Science in their campus bookstores. And since I was reading a lot of books, and I gelled very well with a lot of professors there. And then some of them realized that it is better to talk to me than to talk to Delhi head office, because I could tell them immediately whether their book would sell, or I had, because I think I must have read a few thousand books in my life. So I had that very deep gut feeling also when I see a book, whether it moves or not. So they started talking to me, and I started sending the proposals to Delhi. And suddenly Delhi was having more proposals than they could handle. And then they said, okay, can you take up the publishing part of it from Bangalore itself? So the first time in Wiley history, publishing came out of Delhi in India, out of Delhi to Bangalore. And I was the only guy in Wiley who never got transferred out of Bangalore. I was always stationed in Bangalore. So I would only go to Calcutta, Bhopal, Delhi, IIT, Mumbai, Bombay those days, just to meet authors. Others, nothing. So I think I'm the only guy who actually went from sales to editorial to actual publishing. Publishing meaning getting the book printed, organized, everything. Because I just randomly asked them, can I do this book in Bangalore itself? Although Bangalore, the production cost of a book was higher than Delhi, because Delhi paper is cheap, printing is cheap because of the tax reasons. But they said, okay, you've been doing so much, you do one book, let us see it. And the book did well. And then I did a whole lot of books in Bangalore. So I went through the whole thing of publishing, right from sales, to editing, to looking for authors, and to getting the book printed, getting it bound, putting it in the market, getting the sales, and analyzing the sales figures and everything. And
So
then, of
you
course,
effectively got a complete learning to run this whole business
I
end to end.
think I think in the whole country, even today, I'm one of the few people who can do that. Because I not only know the classical publishing thing, I also went in for digital. And not everybody does that. And so then later on, with COVID and things closing, a lot of publishers started calling me and said, no, okay, can you tell me how we can go about doing digital? And I actually became a consultant for them. As a friendly thing, I would tell them, look, this is the way you need a DRM. Without DRM, you're sunk, and all those things. So I help them build a DRM. I help them how to get a DRM, either they buy it, or how they can build one. So I also became a technology guy from that. From MSc Zoology, I ended up being a technology guy. While building a DRM and all those things, you got to learn technology. So I became a technology. I don't build a thing. I'm not a coder. There are people who code, but I understand technology. I understand what does what, and how things can be made to work.
So
Which
you
many
are
times
not
the
a
code is
technical
broken.
guy, you're a technologist.
Yeah, I'm a technologist. Yes, I'm not a technical. I can't sit and code. I may be able to learn, but I don't think that's important anymore.
Yeah.
That's it.
And well, to if you were to recommend some books, podcasts, I don't know, do you listen to podcasts? Or
I do listen to podcast.
you do?
I
Okay.
do listen to podcast many times while I'm driving or something. But sometimes when the podcasts are, some of the podcasts are 3 hours and all that.
Right.
That
Well,
becomes a
so
big thing.
far, I have my longest podcast is 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
That
it's
was a little bit, yeah.
but it's one of the most popular ones. It's one of the most popular ones. I get messages. It was
Okay.
a special podcast we did with Gayatri, that Waste Impact founder,
Okay. Yeah.
and the people send me. And initially, it was mostly women who used to send the message saying it is so inspiring. But I even got messages from men saying this is very nice, very good. So yeah. In fact, she thought who will listen to it for so long.
Yeah. Now you and I'm wondering whether anybody would be interested in my talk here. I mean, anyway. So that's how I moved on to technology, and then of course,
Do you still
um,
read books? I've moved to
I still read
listening to
books.
my reading has come down to 3, 4 in a year.
No, I still read books, but I read a lot of books in a digital format on my mobile. The last book I read was From Zero to Hero, written by my friend um, Darshan. He talks about his experience with IPL, and there's a lot of life lessons in that. And previous to that, I read one book on share market, again written by my friend. So incidentally, both these books I didn't have to buy it because they gave it to me, by a person called as Zorba Yogi. His name is Hemant, but he calls himself Zorba Yogi.
Okay.
So he called it the wealth mantra. He believes that anybody can become rich in the share market. And he says there's a procedure, there's a process of doing that. So that book, these are the two last books I read. One on the share market by Zorba Yogi, Wealth Mantra, and one is Zero to Hero by Darshan. And both are good friends of mine. That way.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So clearly, I think one is about wealth management for an individual to learn their own wealth management. And other one is entrepreneur's journey, right? Darshan's,
Other one is entrepreneur journey. Absolutely. Darshan, I think Darshan's book, most startups should read it. I would very strongly recommend the book because it talks about a whole lot of things, and I could every page of it I could imagine myself in that because I have gone through the same journey. Although
wonderful.
my journey was more linear, Darshans have been in multiple facets. I mean, amazingly, he's done a lot of things.
Right.
So
We'll anyway try to get him here. I mean, he did confirm to come for the podcast, but we have
yeah,
not been able to work out on a time convenient. So wonderful. Thank you so much for these recommendations. And I hope the listeners, uh, anywhere of the audience who are, see, many people listen, many people watch. So
yeah,
either ways, you will find these recommendations as good. And thank you so much, Machayya, for sharing your journey with us. And soon we will catch up with you to hear about you, what you're doing today, and your perspective on future on that. And
sure.
until then, all of you, thank you so much for joining us. And please share it across in your network if you liked it, and if you think your friends will like this journey of Machayya. And until then, enjoy the ride. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.